Ever wonder where we get the word odd from? It so happens that we get it from Old Norse. The Old Norse term was oddai, which figuratively referred to a third or additional number or something left over. Literally, though, oddi meant the tip or point of a piece of land, or of a weapon such as a spear. Isn't it fascinating how language evolves? Here you had a gaggle of Vikings poking each other with spears, and perhaps they couldn't quite manage uneven numbers, so they called those ones oddi, and used them to stab the bejesus out of everything around them. Over time, this concept of an additional or leftover item came to symbolize something peculiar or strange in English. The reason? Well, something that's left over doesn't quite fit properly with the rest, does it? It stands out, it's different, it's odd. This use of odd, with its sense of peculiarity, was first used in English in the mid-14th century. Around the same time, if not earlier, you could find it used with a positive spin to mean unique or singular as well. So that's where we get odd, from the Vikings. And what about duck? Where did we get our word for these little weirdos? This one comes from the Old English word douche. This was not a noun, as you might assume, but rather a verb meaning to dive or bend down low as if to get under something. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? This action of ducking is characteristic of the bird, especially when it submerges its head underwater. The connection remains in the modern English verb to duck, which retains the same meaning. The first known use of duck as a noun to refer to the bird in English can be traced back to the late 12th century. In those days, duck meant the female bird, while another word, drake, was for the males. You've got to wonder what was going on in the minds of folks back then. Did they think that the lady ducks were the only ones who ducked? Maybe witches were involved. We may just never know. So duck comes from an Old English verb that became a noun for the bird that did the verb so much that the name stuck, and that rhymes with duck. Now, let's take a moment to combine odd and duck. Have you ever heard of the term odd duck? In the English language, this idiomatic expression is often used to describe someone who is unusual, peculiar, or eccentric, a person who doesn't quite fit the mould or conform to societal expectations. The phrase odd duck first made its appearance in the early 20th century, perhaps as a playful metaphorical extension of the duck's ducking habit and its association with the quirky, unpredictable behaviour of such a person. Another theory has it that odd duck comes from 1844, with Hans Christian Andersen's fairy tale, The Ugly Duckling. That story, of course, is all about an odd duck. From there, we can imagine the phrase being popularly used as a way of describing someone as eccentric, while referencing the fairy tale as a means of enhancing the message. So, quack quack, there you go. Now, let's talk about how circus came to represent a place of fun and general chaos. We first go to Rome and Latin for this, where in Latin, circus meant circle, a term used to describe the shape of the arenas where thrilling chariot races took place. These vast circular arenas were buzzing with excitement, filled with the roar of the crowd, the thundering of hooves, and the cutting edge in organised animal abuse. As the Romans were wont to do, though, they borrowed their word circus from the Greek word for circle or ring, kirkos. As the centuries rolled on, the word circus found its way into English, making its first appearance in the late 14th century. By this time, of course, circuses expanded to include not just the abuse of animals, but many humans of the odd duck variety as well. The term transformed to encapsulate a modern entertainment venue, brimming with awe-inspiring performances from acrobatics to clown acts, utterly terrifying. So there you have it. Odd comes from Vikings who liked easy division. Duck comes from the Old English verb odd ducks are strange people, and the Romans borrowed the Greek word for circle as the name of the place where they made people and animals chase each other around in wholesome ways for the entertainment of all. That's it for today. Have a lovely week.